I'm David Sawler, and I work in CapeBreton. And a little bit of our story here. We've been here 14 years, but it was a few years ago. We kind of took some time out, got our leadership team together, and just really were praying about what God had for us over for the next 5 years. And we had seen God do some pretty, some pretty incredible stuff, because we started here, just moved into this town hoping something would happen and planted a church and a youth center. But we knew God was calling us something else that had been stirring. So we said, what is it we're going to invest our time in? And started, praying. And then I remember having, the whiteboards out and asking everyone, what's God saying to you? And we came up with a few things, and we wrote it all down. And it's now looking back and reading all of this, it's always like just amazing me what's happened since then. But in that, we talked about, we had started this center in Glace Bay. We wrote down, we're going to start a center in Sydney. And we've been talking about starting our ministry school for years. We said, we're going to start the ministry school, and we're going to start a center in New Waterford. We're going to find strategic partners to help us along with this vision. And so we didn't have the means to do any of this. It was just like this dream. But we announced, this is what we're doing. To our church, and telling people publicly, this is what we're doing. And we wrote it all out. And then it was just within months, someone called us up and said, we'd like to help you start this center in Sydney. And so 2 years ago we started the center in Sydney, and it was just so many months later, someone called up and said, we have a house, actually we're sitting right now, and said, we'd like you to have this. And that's where all the ministry school students live. And now we're opening up a center in New Waterford, and the resources for that are coming in. And it's so crazy, because when we stepped out, all we had was this. We felt this is what God was telling us to do, and we didn't have the means to do any of it. And of course, the other one was that we'd find strategic partners, and that was before we started talking to YFC. And now to see all these pieces come together, and but looking back, see, this is what we felt God say. Stepped out into obedience, not knowing how any of it was going to happen. And the provision came after we stepped out every single time. I wish God didn't always work that way. It would take a lot of the stress out of things. It was all before, but it happened afterwards. But it was, I do think it's that just hearing God's voice and having at least a little bit of faith to step out in what God has put on our hearts to do, and then He can afford every vision that He gives.